I want to start off tonight, as usual, with expressing support for all of our students, all of our parents, all of our UTLA members, all the educators out there, all of the LAUSD workers out there, frankly, all of the workers across LA County who are going through some pretty rough times right now in terms of looking for childcare, making sure that their families are okay, trying to abide by the different restrictions that are being put in place. I just want to give you a note of appreciation, and I want to let you know that the educators here in LAUSD and in LA schools, we love you, we support you, we're going to make it through this together. Educators are an important part of any and every society, and we are with you, we got your back, students and families. So I want to talk pretty quickly tonight. This is going to be pretty short, but I want to talk pretty quickly about a few things. One is we're seeing educators across the city doing incredible stuff in terms of online learning. This is new for a lot of educators, it's new for a lot of students, it's new for a lot of parents to be doing this kind of online learning. But what I would encourage our educators to do, our great UTLA members, is take videos of yourself doing little how-tos and post them up on social media to give tips to other educators on how they can be using online learning most effectively. Of course, when you do that, please respect student privacy. Don't put student names out there or student faces out there or whatever. But we got to help each other in this time. So educators, please take videos of yourself, post little tutorials about what you're seeing as being successful in terms of online learning and continuity of learning. That would help a lot. It would help parents a lot. It would help students a lot. It would help educators a lot. Educators, UTLA members, same thing as the last few days. Do not report to work sites. Do not report to school sites. You will be paid. You will continue to be paid. Okay. We heard addresses from Mayor Garcetti and from Governor Gavin Newsom today, and Newsom said that he wouldn't be surprised if this kind of school closure lasts throughout the rest of the academic year, all the way through June. And I want to assure you that during that time, you would continue to not report to work, you would continue not report to school sites, and we would continue to support the continuity of learning and whatever we can do around the continuity of services through an online component, okay? And if it extends that long, as Newsom said today, then of course you would be paid throughout, okay? So I want to assure you of that. And I want to just say this to our UTLA members. We've got to also think about, and there's a lot of parents who watch this broadcast as well, we've got to think about how fortunate we are. Teaching is a hard thing. Being a health and human service worker is a hard thing. Being in education is a hard thing. We do incredible work and essential work, but we're all, and it's hard, but it is also something that we are very fortunate in that we are in the public sector where we have been able to be paid, even though we haven't been at our work site. Many in the private sector, not able to do that. They're not able to get paid, even though they're not at their work site, right? And we've also got to recognize we're fortunate to have a union, right? Remember, the privatizers and corporate interests have been trying to break down unions for a long time. Teachers' unions are one of the strongest unions left. And the fact that we have a union has meant that we have been able to make sure that folks get paid, even in this tumultuous time. So we've got to take stock of how fortunate we are as we reach out and help parents and other workers and the parents of our students to get through this time. Okay, we've got to recognize some of our privileges and reach out to others. So I want to, in that spirit of having continuity of pay throughout however long this is, whether it's a month, whether it's 2 months, whether it's through the end of the academic year, I want to talk about substitute educators for a minute. You know that every day we have been we have been talking about, hold on. Okay, so it seems like it's still okay. You know that every day we have been talking to the district about our substitute educators. And when I was teaching at Crenshaw High School for many, many years, I will always remember the substitute educators who I called upon when I had to be absent. I called on Sarah Wellington, or I called on Sandra Gillette. These are people who are essential to the fabric of schools, who develop relationships with students, who are able to continue learning even when the classroom, the regular classroom educator isn't there. So substitutes are so essential. And every day we've been meeting with the district about making sure that substitutes, who are different from others in the sense that they get paid day by day, rather than salaried over the course of a month. So they're in a very different situation than a constant classroom teacher is, who teaches throughout the year. So we had another good conversation with the district today about substitute educators. We brought to them again the things you know we're bringing to them. The district has already agreed to the continuation of assignments for the purposes of pay and job numbers, okay? Second, we're talking to them about lowering two thresholds, lowering the threshold of days it takes to qualify for health care, and lowering the threshold of days it takes to qualify for the continuity rate increase, okay? Those conversations continue, and I'm optimistic about them. But here's the most important thing that happened today. We have been talking to the district about a guaranteed income for substitute educators. And we had another very good conversation about it today, and I'm optimistic about it. This would be unprecedented if we're able to do something like this. And frankly, it would be a model for what we want to see other employers doing. We have put forward, or we've been talking about the idea of looking at the pattern of work of substitute educators over the last months, and then paying those substitute educators at the same rate that substitute educator has been working at. So for example, if a substitute educator has worked 90% of the school days this far into the year, 90%, then it would be assumed that they would work 90% of the school days during the closure, and they would be paid as if they are working 90% of the school days during the closure. If a substitute educator worked 70% of the days, up until this point in the school year, then they would be paid as if they're working 70% of the days during the closure. This would be a way to have a guaranteed income for all substitute educators. And we added something else into the conversation. We want a floor. This is a time where people are facing economic hardship, serious economic hardship. So we proposed the idea of having a floor of the lowest that you could go would be saying that you had worked for 40% of the school year, and you would get paid as if you're working 40% of the closure, okay? That would give us a floor. So if someone was having health problems or something else and they weren't able to work as much as a substitute educator over the last months, maybe had only been able to work 20% of the time or something like that, then the floor they would get in terms of the pay would be 40%, okay? Because this is an economic hardship time, we wanted to establish that floor. So no agreement has been made yet. But we're optimistic about the conversations with the district, and I want substitute educators there to know that every single day we are working on this and we are with you, okay? So I want to end with two things here. We're almost done here, but I want to say two more things. One is that you could tell from Newsom's comment today that this could go throughout the rest of the school year, that things are very serious right now with the coronavirus. And frankly, it's time to do more, and do more comprehensively to make sure that we are not headed down a very dark road. And we can do more. The government can do more. The state of California can do more. we expect that there may be more dramatic moves that are made in the coming days that could go to like a shelter in place or something like that, like we see in the Bay Area. It's good that the state is putting $1 billion into making sure to fight the coronavirus here in California. But more needs to be done. More needs to be done. We may be moving to that shelter in place. And this makes it even more important to have a guaranteed basic income for everyone. I talked about it with substitute educators and how we're in conversations with the district, productive conversations with the district about those folks who are in our union, okay, or in our bargaining unit. But every worker, every family at this point needs a guaranteed basic income. It is just so obvious when we see hotel workers by the thousands, restaurant workers by the thousands losing their jobs. We need a guaranteed basic income in this state, in this country. So more needs to be done, and it needs to be done more comprehensively. Second thing, homelessness. We've all seen what an epidemic homelessness is. They're talking about opening up hotels and housing the homeless. This must happen much more swiftly. We have hotels galore here in Los Angeles. There should be no waiting before putting homeless folks into a shelter, into hotels right now. Those kind of hotels that we have in LA, they're like temples to the wealthy. They're like built like the old temples that people made thousands of years ago, except they're temples to the wealthy. We need to turn them into temples to serve the people and have homeless people in them immediately for the good of those folks who deserve it, and frankly for the good of society, so that we contain this virus. And finally, we need right now, Garcetti has not been strong enough. He's been good, but not strong enough. And Newsom has been good, but not strong enough on evictions. There should be a statewide, Newsom should call for a statewide ban on evictions, okay? He shouldn't leave it up to localities. Some localities aren't going to do the right thing. There should be a statewide ban on evictions immediately. And for Garcetti, someone shouldn't have to prove that an eviction happened because of the coronavirus. This could happen because we're headed into an economic serious downturn. So you shouldn't have to go to court and prove that it had to do with the coronavirus. You should just have a ban on evictions. There should be a ban on foreclosures, and debt payments should be understood to stop. These are things that, as we head into what may be a shelter in place, and as we recognize that there is going to be an extended period where schools are shut down, those are things that should happen much more deeply, comprehensively, and swiftly. And this is what I'll end with, folks. There are certain essential services, even in the countries where they have flattened the curve on the growth of this virus. We've been looking at the studies coming out of the United Kingdom and other places. In those places where they've flattened the curve and they've done shelter in place, they've done social isolation, they have had to keep essential services open, obviously. One of those essential services is food distribution. It just is. And there's way too much hunger and poverty in Los Angeles to ignore the issue of food distribution. So those of you, those 4,500 of you who, bless your hearts, have signed up for food distribution, you are awesome. And that is an essential service. Please be patient in hearing from the district. The district is going to staff these food distribution centers, but please be patient for when you hear from the district. They may just go through the list, and if you're number 2,000, you might not hear from them immediately. If you're number 3,000, you might not hear from them immediately. Please be patient, but your service is going to be very, very appreciated and vital. We are making sure, and the district is being good about maximum safety and healthy protocols being at these food distribution sites, with big social distancing, constant cleanliness, drive-through so that no one has to get out of the car, So we are making sure that maximum safety and health protocols are followed. And as you know, the 60 sites have been published. They're up on the UTLA website. They're up on the LAUSD website. So let's really remember that that essential service of food, it's right there, and maximum safety is being brought in, and we appreciate you and we love you for offering to do that service. Obviously, if you have a pre-existing condition, if you are over the age of 60, if you are pregnant, this is not something you should be doing, okay? And all sorts of precautions are going to be taken. So I want to end with this. This is a very tough time. In that tough time, I'm sorry I had to make it tougher by making you look at the clutter in my dining room. I gotta clean up here a little bit. I got some school supplies for my kids over here, and I got, I don't know, over there. But so I'm sorry I made it tougher on your eyes by making you look at the clutter in my dining room. But this is a tough time. We're going to make it through it together. We're going to make sure that our students are taken care of. We're going to make sure that our educators and health and human services workers are taken care of. We're going to make sure that workers across the county are taken care of. We will make it through this. Remember, those tutorials that you can do about online teaching and online learning, get them out on social media. So put them up, get them to UTLA, get them to LAUSD, and make sure you look at LAUSD.net and UTLA.net for more and more ideas on the kind of curriculum that we can bring to our students in this very tough time. We love you, we support you, thank you very much, and now we're going to figure out whether I can figure out how to turn off the Facebook Live.